too.
Whoops. All right.
Pathway of light.
Give it at an 8.
Oh,
Sorry. Oh. I can talk loud if you want.
no, because they won't be able to hear you.
Here, mic me up.
Yeah, they won't be able to hear you.
Start out with an 8.
Any commentary?
I just like the fact it's glowing. The composition is okay, but it kind of has that ethereal effect of, you know, being in the forest. So it's going in the middle of the road there.
So it's only the
Bear with me. 2 months, I forgot all about how this works.
Forest fog.
Now give that a 12. I like how this black, they use the tree here to frame it off the right-hand side. That's known as off with an edge, which makes your eye come up through. Love the tonality. Fog's right, and it's a good 1/3, 2/3 split.
Rock on.
I'm going to say 13. And another reason is, once again, it has a real nice flow to it as you come around, and then you got your nice little point of interest here. And obviously they knew to stop down enough to get that kind of flare with the lens, but I like how it just kind of goes through.
Fungus.
It's just great color, and I love how it's just sitting there with all of this. I'm going to give this a 13.
Almost forgotten.
I mean, this is cool, and I love it. I don't like it perfectly split in the horizontal here. So I'm going to give this an 11. Well, I'll give it a 12. But here's the thing, like, this could have been better if it would have went one way or another. Either, you know, crop it here and have more up and go down lower, or go the opposite direction and kind of create less breadth here. It's the 50% split that I think hurts it more than anything else. This is really cool, though. This looks like something right out of the illustration.
Fungi.
I like this. I like how the pattern's done. This would be shot square, right?
Yes, they can
Yeah.
do that.
This is, okay, all right. There's a whole thing about square images versus golden rectangles and everything else. I love how this is layered, and I love the repeatability of it. The tonality is nice, except it is, this is like, it's very plain. I like how the whites are. I'm gonna give this a 12.
Sylvan sunbeams.
Once again, I think this could have been better done from a composition standpoint. You got this tree splitting right down the middle here. Maybe trim this down and reframe it and make it a little more of a rectangle. That's just a little tighter crop. The catching the fog and stuff is nice. It could have been maybe shot even a little bit darker. So I'm going to give this. I'll give this 11.
Spreading spores.
This is nice. I like how you're capturing the color. It's off-centered, which is the way it should be. Maybe even right here, so you don't have this attracting your eye away from this, and then it would just lead into it. I'll give this one a 13.
Mushroom house.
It looks like a mushroom house. I like it. There's a little Keebler guy or someone's coming out here. I love how the depth of field is really just centered right here, so your eye immediately goes there and creates the vignette fill. The exposure's right too. I'll give this one a 13. I'm reserving a 15 for something perfect.
On guard.
Well, we're getting there. Okay. All right. If anybody can argue about this image, especially with the vignette, and the photograph itself and how sharp it is. I love, now, I'm guessing this might have been some Photoshop stuff on in here, and that's okay for me because basically it just drives your attention down. It's a great split, you know, to have the room for the bird looking over. So we're going to see our first 15 tonight.
Calm down, Patty.
American Redstart.
It's cool. I love the contrast with the bird. Once again, you know, maybe this could have been made just a little bit better by tightening this up a little bit and leaving more leading line over. You know, this is a nice place here. I like how the depth of field, once again, out of focus, kind of let your eye rest, but maybe just a little more crop. So we're going to give this one a 14.
Eagle Creek, lost in 2017 wildfire.
You can never miss out with having a flowing water shot with a waterfall, right? And I know everybody goes, well, how do you do those? And what do you got to do to get them? And you know, you lower your exposure down. I think this is nice. I'm not quite sure. Once again, it's all about whether you could get into a different position, just take a little different angle on it. The composition just seems a little weighted up top. I want to see it. I'd like to see more stream coming up to create more of the dramatic fill of it to create an angle. So we're going to give this one a 13.
Bird on a stick.
Now, doesn't that look like it's just exploding out at you? You know, and you know, once again, you know, even though this is a center crop, it's just the way this is balanced here and the way it's exploding. We'll give this one a 13.
Bittersweet Nightshade.
Wow, that's cool. I don't know where you guys find these things. People are walking around the forest to find this stuff. But no, once again, great use of depth of field. I love the contrast with this leaf. I mean, it would have been very easy to just get excited about this, but having this over here and the framing of this is really nice. I'm going to have to say this is a 15 too.
The forest has eyes.
This is cool. Once again, you know, obviously with the shallow depth of field, you know, you're going to go right to the frog. I think, you know, from a composition standpoint, once again, it's maybe a little too square. I don't know if anybody's ever talked to you guys about the golden rectangle. It'd be interesting to drop a golden rectangle on this and see if it improved the composition of it. It's not hard to do. I think they actually have it as a frame in a lot of the software you have now. You can just apply that and move it around. I'm going to give this, that's cool though. I mean, I love the little flecks of purple in there. It actually reminds me of Shades Beach, where there used to be a creek in the back there where you could go shoot frogs all day long. Because of the composition, I'm going to give it a 12.
Confusion.
That's cool. No, I mean, I love that. What a great way of shooting a lean tree to make it look like it's the vertical in the forest. The contrast is nice. Everything's flowing, but then your eye stops. Wow. Okay. 14.
As leaves fall.
Okay, so when I talked about that other waterfall, where this is you're creating a foreshortening because you're putting the camera down lower. Okay, I got to tell you something. Back in the day when I took a photograph, I don't think I ever took anything ever standing up. I was either laying on the ground or was trying to get above something to shoot at a different angle, or even reversing this out. Now this is interesting. It would have been interesting to see this shot as a vertical, but also as a horizontal. It was just a little bit lower and maybe a little tighter up here. Once again, you know, I'm just saying, I like the forest coming up, but you got to make a choice between the two, and they're tough sometimes. Sometimes you can do that with a vertical and still get the same foreshortening. I'm gonna give this a 14.
Cooling waters.
I love the fact that it's monochromatic. It'd be interesting to see if there were different time exposures of what happened with the water based off the time exposure. So I'm not sure who shot this. Now this proportion is, this is what I'm talking about here. You're getting closer to that golden rectangle. I'm not saying you have to do it all the time. It just creates a more natural composition for the eye. There's all kinds of studies about this. I know this is tough in here because it's a projection. I'd love to see this maybe even a little more contrasty, where the blacks were even deeper, but that could just because the way it's being projected. I'm gonna give this a 13.
Leading to autumn.
Looks like a use of a telephoto, maybe not a really long one. You know, I love how they framed the tree with the road. I'm not quite sure what's going on over here. Once again, could this photograph look different if you trimmed off that right-hand side? So I'm going to give this one an 11.
Did you hear that?
I shot up a deer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 point. You gotta love animals out in the woods, especially when you're hunting down and trying to find them and stuff. I mean, it's pretty monochromatic, but once again, it's winter time. I'm not so sure about just centering the deer there. It seems like there's an awful lot of space around it. I'd like to see it a little tighter crop. So we're going to give this one a 10.
Magical forest.
It's cool. Looks like some kind of filter. Love to know later on how you did this. It's a nice effect, and it has a great feel to it. It has a feel like emotion. I love the color and light, but there's something that doesn't take it over to that 15. So I'm gonna give it a 13.
Nuts.
All right, what's the commercial? It uses no, the squirrels. Geico? No. Once again, I think this is it's a great photo, but it's just maybe too centered, you know, in the sense of this. You know, there's nothing stopping you from recropping images after you shoot them. In the old days when the digital cameras weren't that good, there was no way of cropping down stuff because you know unless you shot it full frame, and that's what you learn to do. I'm just going to throw this out as an advice thing. Is what you should try to do is frame it the way you think you want it when you're shooting it, because then it gives you some options. You can always leave a little breath around it. But once again, I mean, if this is supposed to be the primary focus, this is kind of lost out here. So I'm gonna give this one a 9.
The forest for the trees.
Now that's sweet. Once again, you know, it's balanced. I love the white border. It actually created the contrast with this. But the bottom line is that, you know, once you can't go wrong with the fog. The color's absolutely beautiful. I'm going to give this a 15. You'd hang that in your house.
Things in the forest.
All right. So this is cool. I know you guys are allowed to do anything you want, and this says it, and it's going to get a 15 because of that. Because there was a lot of thought into this and the placement of what's going on with the execution of it. You know, having this ferry coming over here and create that sweeping, but you have this looking backwards, and of course, you know, you got your butterfly for the focal. This guy's a little bizarre. It would have been better maybe make him a little softer, but from an illustration standpoint, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna give this a 15. That's a lot of work, and it's well composed.
Joe Rude Prescott. With his pet moose.
Pathway to fall.
You know, exposure-wise, this would have really done a lot better if it was underexposed to create more contrast and create a depthness of color and saturation. Just remember, when you underexpose something, it will get more saturated, especially when you're out in the woods like this. You know, the leading line here is kind of nice. Once again, you know, this is kind of a nice blocker, but once again, would this have been better if it was shot from 6 inches down on the ground? Instead of being shot more waist level? I'll give this a 9.
Allegheny State Park.
Looks like there's a little bit of a motion blur here, so maybe this was kind of shot with a telephoto. I get you trying to catch the rapids and stuff, but once again, you know, I'm not sure the composition is helping this, so I'm gonna give this a 7.
Watch your step.
This is cool. Once again, great contrast. I love how it's framed because of the way it's stepping up and down. I'm gonna give this a 13.
Trees in a Forest, a classic Muir Woods.
Great thing to look up, right? Most people don't do it. Little story, one of the first photographs I made when I was 12 years old on a camera I bought with my paper route was I looked up at a maple tree and shot the picture. And it's one of the photos I would show to photo classes and stuff over and over again, saying, just remember, you don't have to look forward, you can always look up or down or sideways. You know, it's a straightforward shot. I think we've seen these before. It's a nice composition and everything. I'm just going to give this I'm going to give it a 13 only because it's, you know, we might have seen it before, but it's well executed.
Scaly Visitor.
Okay, my wife would be freaking out right now. I like it. It's a little overexposed. Looks like there's maybe a flash. I can't tell. It's hard to tell. There's a very deep shadow here, and I'm not sure how it was shot. You know, it's nice, but I don't think it's, you know, super spectacular. We're going to give this one we'll give it a 10.
Centipede in the Forest.
Now that's nice because you had to, whoever took this had to look and think about what they were going to shoot. They saw this, they had to frame it. You know, love the green moss up here, but I'm not quite sure. It would have been interesting to see if it was just totally mono, and then what you would have. You know, it's not perfect. I'm going to give this one a 13.
Vines in the Forest.
Okay, you turned around, you forgot you left your coat down there? No, I'm just joking around. No, it's a great addition of color, right? I mean, obviously, you know, you guys have learned about, you've learned about leading lines. Once again, this is shot a little bit lower. I mean, I know everybody's just looking at it and going, okay, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, once again, it would have been interesting to see if this was darkened up a little bit to create a little more contrast. And once again, playing around with the framing of it, you know, to create even more foreshortening by saving some of the road or whatever. I'm gonna give this one I'm gonna give it an 11.
I've been slimed.
Okay. You know, I mean, I think it's just cool that we're seeing so many fungus photos. But here's the thing. I mean, I think everybody in this room who's using a camera right now, it looks cool, but it doesn't come up to the measurement of the other ones that were there. So I'm gonna give this one a 10.
Looking for Logic.
Yeah, that's neat. Hopefully you didn't put the bug there. No cheating. I'm just kidding. No, believe it or not, when you're a photojournalist, right, you can't manipulate stuff when you shoot it. You got to be very honest to yourself. And I'm not talking about moving leaves around and whatever. And it was always a challenge when you were shooting that for a newspaper. When you could do illustrations was when you were normally doing for covers of magazines and stuff. But in your guys' world, you can do anything you want. So if you want to place a bug down, once again, I like that the fact that this is the format of it, the composition of it's a little bit better. I love the wood piece. The bug is nice. I'm gonna give this a. There's just something missing about it. I don't know what it is. It's like the mid-tones are a little too light. Like this is just a little too light. It would have been interesting once again if it was darker, if that contrast and the lines would have came out better on the tree. Give this a 12.
Mystery River.
Okay, once again, you know, using time exposure, you got the leaves on the rocks. I mean, this part right here is perfect. I'm not so sure about this. You know, it's almost leading, but then you have this. It would have been interesting to shoot this from different angles. I'm gonna give this a, I'm gonna give this an 11.
Forest encounter.
So this is a little different than the 6 point, right? You know, once again, with a longer telephoto, you have a nice depth of field separation. You know, it would have been fun if this wasn't here, but you can't do anything about that, right? Unless you go with Photoshop and stuff. So I'm gonna give this a. I love that leg up. I'm gonna give this a 12.
High alert.
Should have been the bird of the United States, not the eagle, is my opinion. I'm with Ben Franklin. No, I just can't tell whether this is naturally lit or whether, you know, I figured it's naturally lit. It's a nice composition. Maybe it could have been tightened up a little bit. I'll give this one an 11.
Asbury Woods Buckeye.
This is cool. I mean, you guys can feel the energy again, the explosion of when you're fixed and then you have these leading lines out. I'll give this one an 11.
Butterfly of the rainforest.
I don't know how you guys find these things. This is cool. It seems that, of course I have to squint. I mean, it seems like there's the focus point right there, which caused the blur here. I don't know if that was intentional. You know, missing the wing, I don't know if that hurts this, only because, once again, it's kind of like what's called off with edges, is when you chop things off on the side. It's actually a painting term, right? Is if you want to have motion to something and you want to have it flow a little bit better, you can crop something off and your eye kind of just leads right off the frame. I'm going to give this a 13.
Winding path.
14. This is well composed. I just love the contrast to it. There's exposures right there. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 14. I'm just not going to give it a 15. I'm going to give it a 14.
Secret garden.
Now that's cool. Once again, the exposure's nice. I'm not so sure with the cropping of it, with the square crop. It just seems like I don't know where to go. I kind of go here, which is cool because of the pattern and texture, but then I jump over here because of the leaves and stuff. I'm gonna give this a 12.
Rocky banks.
Okay. Once again, this is cool. I love the way the stone here leads up to it. Is that a tree? Yeah, it's a tree. I would love to see this just darker. I would love to see this, you know, just a little bit denser. I'm gonna give this a 12.
Forest mushrooms.
The reason I'm throwing this out here, so whoever's shooting it, you know, when I talk about exposure, go back into, you know, light, you know, whatever you're using, Photoshop or whatever software you're using, and just for grins, take the exposure down by half stop, you know, and see what it looks like and see if I'm lying to you or not. You know, that's the beauty about digital, is you can play around with it a lot. You know, this is fun. And by the way, you can eat puffballs. I fry them myself. A little bit of butter. But yeah, you can.
Really?
They're mushrooms. Yeah. They taste good. Yeah, it tastes just like a white one.
It's like chicken.
Just like chicken.
It's like chicken.
Once again, this would have been interesting if this was shot ground level, so that they were just like these ominous things coming out of the ground. So I'm gonna give this I'll give this a 10.
Who, me?
Pretty tight focus, right on the noses, it looks like, across. I like it. I mean, I like how they're posed again. I mean, once again, I think from a tighter crop perspective, you would have focused on a deer more. Does this really help you up here? You know they're in the woods and you want to kind of look at their faces. We're gonna give this one a 11.
Beauty in the forest.
this is a great composition. Once again, you know, you have this motion and it's split right. You can't argue about the colors. It's interesting how there's always a neutral something around whenever something's this pretty. Would you hang it in your house? Of course you would. Is it a 14 or a 15? I'm gonna go 14.
A walk in the woods.
Great moment, great catch. I don't know where this is at, but go back in the fall, go back in the winter, go back in the spring. You know, you normally don't see something tunnelized like this. It's pretty neat. Once again, you know, the exposure, it makes it feel light, and I think that's cool. You know, once again, would this been better measured to be a little tighter crop? So I'm gonna give this a 13.
Looking foxy.
I mean, it's hard to catch foxes, and you know, when I talk about composition with animals, it's not like you got all day to sit there and keep reframing the thing, right, to make it right. So is there a way for you to reframe it after you shoot it? Like, what would this look like if it was framed this way? You know, or what would it look like if it was framed real tight, just to its face, just for grins? It's kind of 50-50 for me again, once again, which is normally the death knell for image, because your eye doesn't know what to do. It knows it sees a fox, but it's like going which way. So I'll give this 11.
Broken bill.
Composition's not bad. It seems oddly toned. It just doesn't seem like it's lush enough back here, considering the blackness of the bird. I'll give this a 10.
Winter greens.
These are tough because you can rack your focus back and forth and figure out what you want to do and play with it. I love the color. The composition, though, is, I don't know where to go. You know what I mean? It's just almost a 50-50 split again between out of focus and your center point. So I'm gonna give this a 10.
Fungus in the forest.
Yeah, it could have. There's something with the exposure here. It just seems like the saturation or something's just off with it. And the composition, I'm not quite sure where to look. So I'm gonna give this one an 8.
A what?
An 8. 8.
Shoots, moss, and needles.
This is cool. I really want to know where you guys find this stuff. That's what just astonishes me. You know, boy, you know, once again, what it would look like a stock darker, just to create more contrast and give it a darker, deeper fill. I don't know how many photos were taken here. I bet you there were a bunch taken. I love how this is working, and I love how these are creating the different layers, you know, as you go back. But there's something about it that, I don't know, it's lacking just a little bit. So I'm gonna give this a 12.
A babbling brook.
You know, does anybody see a little figurehead right there? Almost like a little. I like it. I mean, it's great contrast, and I just don't know if there's too much snow there. Give this a 12.
The giant redwoods.
You know, you're in the forest and it's foggy and it's cool, but once again, would this been better darker? I mean, I don't know. We're going to argue about it all day long. The composition's not as nice as some of the other ones we've seen, so I'm gonna give this one I'll give it 11. Okay, do you all hate me now?
No, but we're getting there. No.
So here's your free commercial. Who uses Flipboard? Do you ever guys use Flipboard on an iPad?
No.
All right, it's an app. All right, everyone that has an iPad has to go get it. And what it has is different subject matters in it, and they have a thing called iPhone ography. They have a photo book. They have all this stuff. They have images. They repeat images from around the world that are the most beautiful things I've ever seen. So if you want to look at a lot of pictures that doesn't cost you anything, just look for the app and load it up. Is it Flipbook or Flipboard? I think it's Flipbook. I can't remember. It's Flipboard or Flipbook, one of the others. I spent a lot of time in it. My wife yells at me. Going through it, and it refreshes, and all this stuff comes on. I know you guys read all the photo books in the world about technique and stuff, but they have an awful lot of stuff in there for you when you start out.
All right, our winners in the bronze is Joey
Magram.
and Rodney Spencer. And in silver, our winner is Jan Balsamo. In gold, our winner is Elaine Hopek. And also Mary Kay Tellerico. In diamond, our winners are John Bishop and Melinda Isaacson. And in platinum, our winners are Patty Menz and Gail Winslow.
Candy, did you do the frog? Is that frog yours?